All right, hey everybody, it's David Kramer. Let me get my microphone a little closer here. It's David Kramer, the critical thinking Christian, and today I want to talk about another inconsistency in the Gospels. And today what I'm going to talk about is Judas. Judas's death and who bought the field, etc. Now, I'm on a site here called the Gospel Coalition, and they have this article, Judas' demise in Matthew 27 and Acts 1. Do they contradict? I'm going to put the link up here if you want to read it. Yeah. But anyway, you get two different versions here. Okay, in Matthew 27 verses 3 to 8, you have a remorseful Judas who realizes he betrayed an innocent man. He goes into the temple and he throws the money down at the feet of the chief priests. Then he goes out and he hangs himself. The chief priests then go and buy a field, and they call it the field of blood because of the blood money, because they can't take the money and put it back in the coffers because it's blood money. Okay, in Acts 1:18 and 19, you have a different version. You have a Judas who doesn't seem to have any remorse or anything. He takes the 30 pieces of silver, buys a field, and then somehow falls, and his guts burst out, and he dies. Okay, now, you can make the whole guts bursting out and dying kind of fit if you take the Matthew hanging and then you say, well, if he hung himself and say the rope broke or someone cut it, he comes down feet first, he hits feet first, and then falls headlong, and since he's bloated, his guts burst out when he hits the ground. Okay? Let's say we can make that fit. But, what we can't make fit is the fact that in one version, the priests buy the field, and in another version, Judas buys the field. But, okay, Christianity has a way of making anything fit. And what these people here in the Gospel Coalition surmise and say is that in Matthew, Judas was another Absalom. Okay, now Absalom is 2 Samuel 18, 9, and 10, where Absalom is fleeing. And he's fleeing on his mule. I think they may have had a battle or whatever, but he's fleeing. And as he goes under a tree, since he had really long hair, his hair gets caught in the tree. He's hanging there. Joab, David's general, comes along and throws spears through his heart. Kills him. So they say that in Matthew, Judas is another Absalom. And you can say, okay, you have Judas hanging himself. It's you can kind of make that fit. I think it would have been better. If I'm correct, David had was it a priest called Ahithophel? I'm not going to look it up. But this Ahithophel betrayed David, went with Absalom, and he hung himself by the neck. That there, I'd say, would be more of a correlation between Judas, because he actually hung himself and died. Absalom was David's son, and yeah, he betrayed his father, but, Ahithophel would have been more like a friend. So I could make that fit and say that's what Matthew's saying. You see how this can work? Now, then of course you go into Luke. Luke wrote Acts. You go into Acts, and Luke is trying to tell you that Judas is as another Ahab. Okay? Because Luke is more interested in the bloodshed, okay? He's more interested in, since he was a physician. Really? Why isn't Luke more interested in telling you the truth, instead of making up a story that fits the fact that he's interested in bloodshed? And then he says Matthew focuses on Judas' asphyxiation. It's like, okay, whatever. But, he's supposed to be another Ahab. Okay, Ahab, it's 1 Kings 21:2 and Kings 9:25 and 26. Ahab wanted Naboth's vineyard. Okay? So King Ahab sent people and said, hey, I want to buy your vineyard. And Naboth said, no. Nope. It's mine. I'm going to keep it. So Ahab had Naboth falsely accused and then murdered, so he could have his vineyard. What they say here is that, like Ahab, Judas had Jesus betrayed. And since Israel was the vineyard that Jesus owned, wait a minute, Judas didn't get Israel. It's not like Judas became Israel's Messiah then after he killed Jesus. He bought a field, apparently. So, this to me is, looking at these stories and trying to make both of them work. And then going into the Old Testament and finding stories and saying, oh, yeah, that there works. No, that don't work. The fact that Luke and Matthew have two different stories is, once again, the Gospels trying to fit things in to make everything work. I made a video on Hosea 11:1. Matthew loves taking bits and pieces of the Old Testament and putting them in and going, you see, that's a prophecy fulfilled. Hosea 11:1 talks about how when the angel came to Joseph and said, hey, you and the mother and the child need to go to Egypt because Herod's trying to kill the kid. He goes to Egypt, and then when Herod dies, he's called out of Egypt. And Matthew said, and that there was done to fulfill what the prophet had said, okay, in Hosea. And then you go to Hosea and you realize that it's not a prophecy. That it says, the whole verse says, and when Israel was a child, I loved him, and I called my son out of Egypt. It's essentially God looking back and saying, I did that. Not looking forward and saying, I'm going to do that. So Matthew loves grabbing this stuff and going, more and more as I look at the Gospels, I'm seeing a story that seems to just be made up. And we're going to fit whatever we can in there to make it look like it's real. And as a Christian, I did like most Christians. I sat there, I listened to this guy talk, and he says this, that, and the other thing, and you look and you go, oh yeah, that's what it says. And you don't look into it, you don't critically think about it and try to study up on it. And when you do, you're going, well, wait a minute, that doesn't make sense. But, well, what we're going to do is we're going to spin stuff and make it seem like it makes sense. It's like I said, preachers are getting paid, evangelists, the people where you get your devotional material, they're paid to do it. So it's their job. Okay? And more I see where you have former preachers and teachers of the Bible who were in it for years. When they start critically thinking about it, they start coming out of it and going, no, wait a minute, this doesn't make sense. So I just wanted to make this video here. Once again, this to me is just, we're going to fit things in here and make it look like this works. Because that's what we have to do. So let me get that. So that's it for this video. I'm going to be looking into more stuff, like I said, and I'm going to come out. I'm just trying to, as someone who still maintains some Christianity, I'm going to try to figure this out. Like I said, maybe I'm wrong, but maybe you're wrong. Okay? Maybe what we believe isn't true. Just take this, for instance. The Messiah. The Jews understand the Messiah as someone who comes to them, and then they are the ones who the Gentiles go to find out about God and to worship God. Okay? Nothing about the Gentiles drawing the Jews. It's always the Jew drawing the Gentile. All right, so that's it for this video, and until next time, I'm David Kramer, the Critical Thinking Christian.